So we shall start with Burning Heart. You're making your debut,
Yes.
and you're competing in the championship tournament against Robbie X. So what are your thoughts on that match? And also debuting for such a big but new promotion.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Especially seeing the caliber of talent that's going to be there, and knowing that, you know, my first matchup is going to be someone who I hold in a very high regard in Robbie X. This will be our second matchup together. The first one was just absolutely a total pleasure across the board. He's just incredibly talented. He's been on a complete upward trajectory since the last time well, not the last time I saw him, because I saw him in Ireland a couple days ago. So, but even then, upward trajectory. Always an upward trajectory. He's just an amazing person to be around. The whole roster that's going to be there, the whole tournament that weekend is just tremendous athlete caliber opponent. Just a number of them in a row. So yeah, extremely excited for the debut of the promotion. It's my debut in the promotion. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Can't wait.
I was going to say the actual talent in the tournament as well. Like, you've got Mark Haskins, Trent Seven, Kid Lycos. Like, everyone that's in there is fantastic. Like, if you get through, who are you most excited to face?
Ooh, I think Haskins is probably the one, because I remember he was like a real staple of the scene, especially when I was going over in like 2016, 17. Yeah. And for whatever reason, he and I never actually wrestled in the ring. So I think that's probably one that I'd love to check that off the list, because he's been a name that's been on there for a very long time. But yeah, I mean, really, there's no disappointing answer. It's all they're all great options.
And for anyone that's coming to either show, what can they expect to see from you, considering you've not been on a UK indie scene for such a long time?
Yeah, it's you're gonna get with me what you always get with me, and that's I'm gonna try to have the best match on the show. My goal, when I go into any match, it doesn't matter if there's 20,000 people watching. It doesn't matter if there's 2 million people watching on TV. It makes no difference to me, right? I don't have an off switch, right? My goal is always whatever anyone views as the ceiling, I'm going to try to beat that, right? I'm going to try to if everyone looks at my match and say, "Oh, that's going to be match of the night," then I'm going to try to have match of the year. If everyone says, "Man, that's definitely going to be match of the year," I'm going to try to have the best match of all time, right? I'm never satisfied with what people think is my ceiling. I always want to exceed that. I view myself as the best professional wrestler on earth, and I hold myself in that regard. And when I fall short of living up to that, I'm disappointed in myself, right? Because I continually strive to be the best. That's always the way that I'm going to view myself. That's always the mindset that I'm going to take in terms of a professional wrestling performance. And that's what people can expect, is that level of commitment and that level of dedication, because that's the amount of myself that I put into everything that I do in professional wrestling.
So something else that you're doing that weekend, which is quite cool, is the seminars.
Yes.
And one's already sold out. They've got another one on. So what can people expect from that? Like, what will you be teaching or looking for in those who enter?
It's the exact same mindset. I couldn't be more passionate about the art of professional wrestling, and I want that to translate in my matches. I want that to translate in my training. When I do online stuff with the Dijak Wrestling Academy, which is dijakwrestling.com, I know that it translates there. If you're at a seminar with me, what you're going to get is the second that time hits, I'm going to talk for a couple seconds, and then we're going to get into the ring, and it's going to be ring work. I'm going to be assessing instantly, just immediate interactive feedback, where I want to hear what you have to say. You are going to hear what I have to say, and we're going to have a dialogue, and we're going to talk about what things can make you a better professional wrestler immediately, right? Short term, medium term, long term. I take every approach. I take everything into account. I'm learning from you, and you're learning from me. It's a collaborative process. I'm not just going to sit there and tell war stories, right? There's a time and a place for that. this might be it. This might be the time and the place for that. A seminar is not the time and the place for that. I'm going to give you as much value as you can possibly get out of me, because that is my mindset. That's how I want people to think of me when they think of Donovan Dijak. I want to use the knowledge that I've been very grateful to get, because I've been able to learn from guys like Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and the list goes on and on. I did training seminars with The Undertaker. I've done training seminars with Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, endless list, Lance Storm. I've trained with everyone who's anyone in terms of the world of professional wrestling and training other people. I've been able to get and gather feedback from them, and I want to be able to pass that knowledge on in the most articulate way possible, in the most direct way possible. That's exactly what you're going to get out of me in any learning scenario, any seminar, an online webinar, anything like that. You're always going to get that level of dedication from me.
And someone from the seminar will get a place on the card. What are you looking for in that talent to go, you are the one that we want to perform on the show?
If I'm assessing things from an in-ring standpoint only, because the reality of professional wrestling is that there's a multitude of different ways that you can look at someone. If I'm going to take into account for what I'm being told to look for, because ultimately, if it's left up to me, I'm just going to say, who do I remember the most, right? Yeah. Who do I remember the most? End of story. Because that is ultimately my determining factor for how you are a spectacle and how you draw money in the world of professional wrestling. As much as I would love for it to be in-ring only, it's not, right? I want it to be, but it's not, because I love in-ring. Nobody loves in-ring more than me. But at the end of the day, I know what does well in professional wrestling, and ultimately it's spectacle, right? It's memorability. It's how much people remember you. So yeah, whatever assignment is bestowed on me, that's what I'll do. If it's left up to me, it'll be easy, because it'll be the kind of thing where I know right away, oh, I'm going to remember that person. That's it. Yeah. If I remember you or not.
So the two shows that you're on are Liverpool and Manchester, crowds you've not performed in front of for a long time. What are you most looking forward to about
that? Man, about that specifically, probably see how much they remember me, right? Because you always have kind of an idea and how much of a gauge. But I remember wrestling in Liverpool, and I can tell you these. It was for Ring of Honor, and I know who I wrestled there, and I remember the date and time frame. I can tell you a lot of detail. When it comes to pro wrestling, I have a very photographic memory. When it comes to everything else in my life, I have the opposite. I forget almost everything. Maybe it's because pro wrestling takes up so much real estate that I just don't have anything left for anything else. But yeah, I can't wait to get back. I hope that the people remember me the way that I remember them, and I'm sure they will. The UK scene, especially the further north you go, you get a lot of really passionate fans, and I'm just super excited about it.
Cool. So you left WWE about 8 months ago, and you've kind of been on this massive indie tour since then. You kind of seem like you've wrestled everywhere for anyone, anytime. Like, what's that been like for you, being back on the indies in such an intense way?
It's a double-edged sword. Everything in professional wrestling, really everything in life, is a double-edged sword. But that really becomes more and more under the magnifying glass as you become more and more in control of what's happening. There's good parts of it, and there's not so good parts of it. As there was with WWE, there was lots of good parts of it and lots of not so good parts with it. A big piece of that became super apparent just the other day when they had their first, session of like, here's all the people, here's all the people who are getting released. That used to be a really tumultuous day for me. For 7 years, every time those days started, you just live in fear, you live in dread. Now it's like it still sucks. It's still a crappy day to view, but I'm not the one who has to worry about my own family anymore, right? It's a relief. It sucks that I know other people are in that situation. They're worrying about it. But yeah, double-edged sword for everything. The positives is what I like to focus on. I've learned, as you mentioned, over the past 8 months, that the focusing on the positives is a very, very, very integral tool for me. So I love to focus on the positives now. I have a lot more control over where I go and what I do and who I wrestle for. And that, at this point in my career, that means a ton to me, right? That I'm able to sort of control my own rebranding, right? Like MLW, for example, has invested heavily into me and my vision, and so I'm investing heavily back into them and their vision. So it's such a great collaborative process. I get to work with wonderful companies like Burning Heart who express their interest in me, so I get to reverberate that and express my interest in working for them. It's become a really wonderful sort of ecosystem that feeds into itself, and I'm having an absolutely great time. Like you mentioned, just tons and tons of matches, and I'm always at my happiest when I'm in the ring and the bell rings. So yeah, it's been a tremendous run, and I can't wait to continue to see it evolve over the course of time.
Are you kind of looking for a permanent home, or are you just happy with this go wherever and see what happens?
Looking wouldn't be the word that I would use, because that implies that I'm like actively like seeking and politicking and whatever. I've learned over my core, especially from my time in WWE, I need to be, especially at this point of my career, I need to be in a place where they need me. They want me there as much as I want to be there, right? That's probably a good anecdote for like relationships as well, right? Like any relationship that you want to be, you don't want to be somewhere where you desperately want to be there way more than they want you to be there, right? It's got to be we both need to be on the same page. So no, I'm not actively desperately trying to be somewhere that's not as interested in me. If they want to meet my level of interest, then I am all ears at all times. I will happily have those conversations. I'd love to have those conversations. But right now, MLW has expressed to me that they are intent and they are all in on Donovan Dijak. So I'm all in on MLW and any other company that brings me in, like Burning Heart Pro Wrestling has made it very clear how they feel about me. I'm making it very clear how I feel about them. That's where I live. I've been in the business for 13 years, and I think that that's a wonderful spot to be in, and I'm happy to be in it.
Yeah. You touched on before about the cuts that happened over the weekend. Having been through that yourself, and clearly you're someone who likes to
sort of through that. I never had the experience where I had to sit and stare at my phone and then take the phone call from talent relations or anything like that. My experience was a lot different, and in a way, kind of better, right? Because I just thought I was in a contract negotiation, and then I got a call from my talent rep, who's my friend Mojo, and he said, "Hey, they're actually planning on not renewing your contract," which is it's a devastating news to hear. But at least I didn't have to sit there staring at my phone, which for the record I've done. Like I alluded to, that used to be tumultuous. It never ended with the actual conclusion. In this circumstance, for me, at least I knew that my contract was coming up, right? So my contract ended up ending the day that I was told it was ending. That's a positive in a way, right? So yeah, I didn't have to deal with the other end of it, which is, now I suddenly have to figure out where to get money, whereas I expected it to be there already. So double-edged sword.
Well, I was going to say, like, what advice would you give to those who have just gone through it over the past couple of days, even though it's kind of different situation?
It's funny. I just got answered. I just got asked this question. I don't have a great answer. I wish I did. I wish I could say, this piece of advice was the best piece of advice. The reality is when you're in that situation, just hearing from people is helpful. Just knowing that people care is the most helpful thing. I remember for me specifically, it was a lot easier for me because I immediately got flooded with like booking requests and things like that. So that's helpful. For me, the day that I released the news was 2 days later. I was available to take bookings. It's a lot harder when you have 90 days, obviously. I don't have a great piece of advice beyond the cliche, like one door closes, another one opens. Time heals all wounds. I can bombard you with cliches. They're all true. and everybody's being told them, it doesn't help when you're in the situation. You're just sitting in the situation. You're like, yeah, thanks for the advice. I still feel miserable. you know, yeah, the most I can offer is that once you have that level of control back that you didn't have for a long time, it can be a very good feeling, right? Focus on the positives rather than focusing on the negatives. Way easier said than done, because all you can think about is the negatives at first.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, do your best to focus on the positives rather than focusing on the negatives, because a lot of positives that weren't there before will start to arise, and they're good. They're a good feeling.
Yeah. Just on that 90-day clause, how is that 90-day thing viewed in the industry? Because for a lot of industries, it's not a thing that exists, if you know what I mean.
I didn't have to deal with it. I didn't have to deal with the 90 days. I found out they weren't renewing my contract about, I don't know, I can't remember the exact, but maybe like 2 or 3 weeks before the date was up. So I didn't have to deal with that. I chose to not announce it until like the 2 days before, or whatever, just from a timing aspect. I don't know. I get double-edged sword. I keep going back to the same analogy, because it's really the best way to describe everything, right? There's good parts, there's bad parts. That, like, of course you still want to get paid for 90 days. Like, if your pay just ended that day, that'd be horrible. Like, that'd be an awful situation to have to deal with. But also you'd have the ability to just do whatever you want right away. So that's the positive of it. Checks and balances, pros and cons. You have 6 of half dozen of another. I'm sure there's some people who prefer one way and some would prefer the other way. It's probably better for some and than others, but yeah, I wasn't angry about the way that my situation happened. I was just not thrilled with that it was happening, but the way it ended up transpiring could have been much worse.
Fair enough. I think something else you probably weren't happy with when you were there, but T-Bar. What was that ever going anywhere? Like, what was the plan with that?
I think it was. I think there was no definitive plan ever given to us. I've said this a few times in interviews, even interviews that I've done today. But I think for it to be the truth, my best knowledge of the situation of Retribution was that there was at least a concept in place of what Vince wanted it to be. And I heard through the grapevine, I don't know this to be true, but I heard a rumor that either one or multiple executives at the Fox network didn't like it just because of the way it was presented and the way that it looked on television. And when we heard that rumor, we were immediately no longer on SmackDown and we were exclusive to USA. And when that happened is when it started to trend from this way to it started to trend from this to this way. So my guess would be that there were plans in place for it to have some legs and to continue to build and be a storyline. And then once they lost SmackDown, once we were no longer allowed on SmackDown, that's when it just became like, just use them for whatever we can use them for. I think it's that simple. I don't know that to be true. My guess is that's probably what happened.
Fair enough. So when you look back on your entire kind of WWE time, what are you most proud of?
My entire second run in NXT. Yeah, from the end of 2022 to the beginning of 2024, by far the most freedom that I've had in terms of character development, the most high stakes matches that I've had, the most investment in my character, the most trust from the creative team, just across the board. I couldn't be more proud of that. In my opinion, the best match of my career was the Iron Survivor Challenge match at Deadline 2023. I'm just I couldn't be more happy with the platforms that I was given. Like, did I want more? Did I want to be the champion of NXT? Absolutely, of course. I understood that wasn't the business decision of what was going on at that time. Right now, I'm in the process of rebranding myself and proving to everyone that I can be the best. I can be the top guy. I can be your world champion, and I will do better business for your company, and I will elevate the company. If you invest in me, I'll invest in you, right? That's the whole thing I've been trying to get across from the rebranding. So it's not to say that I was like, that I was, I'm just happy to be. I was always fighting for more, But in terms of my time in WWE and the amount of things I was given, that was by far the best and most productive use of my time there and what they were offering me. So yeah, I was super happy with that. And quite frankly, I wouldn't be in the position I was right now without that opportunity, right? Like I'd be in a much worse position right now if it had just been, your T-bar, it's not working and goodbye, 90 days, goodbye. And they absolutely could have done that, but they didn't. They gave me the opportunity at NXT, and I think it was mutually beneficial, and I'm very thankful for that.
Cool. So last couple of questions. What are you still kind of in touch with the NXT or the WWE guys? Like, do they keep an eye on you, or how does that work?
By guys, do you mean wrestlers or do you mean office?
Office.
Office, almost nobody. Almost nobody. I can't remember the last office. Again, there's a transitionary period there where it's like, for that first week, I think maybe one or two guys from creative reached out to me and were like, "Oh, thank you. We wish it would have worked out." Everyone who reached out to me probably had nothing to do with it. So I'm not like, there's no, and quite frankly, I don't know who made the decision, right? It could be some executive, it could be someone in creative. I have no idea. I wasn't told. That's just the situation, and it is what it is. But yeah, there's also that like awkward like middle ground where like I think some people don't want to, they're afraid that I'm gonna like scream at them or so. I don't know, and I feel weird about it because like why would I reach out to that? Like, am I begging for my job back or what? I don't know. So it's just this weird situation. A lot of the wrestlers, though, I still talk to a lot of the wrestlers. A lot of them are my good close friends. Yeah, it's just weird. It's awkward. I mean, I still have everybody's number, so like if I don't even know what we talk about, to be honest. Most of my relationship and interaction with them was business related. Like, hey, like, we would talk as friends and stuff, but like ultimately it would boil down to like, oh, what's the creative for this week? What are we doing this way? What's the contracts? Whatever it was. And now it's like, what do I talk about? Like, how's the weather? So it's, but yeah, it's I'm my phone's always open. I mean, these are guys that I'm friends with, and that's not, even if we don't talk for a while because of circumstances. I'm always happy to rekindle the conversation.
Fair enough. Last question: are there any myths, misconceptions, or rumors about you that you've heard over the years that you kind of want to put straight, or you've heard and you think, where the hell's that come from?
Yeah, I mean, the big one right now is that I got fired from WWE because I was leaking to the dirt sheets. I mean, that's obviously,
oh God, yeah.
The whole thing is just, on the one hand, this happened to all my friends. All my close group of friends got released or their contracts expired in WWE. And what happens, and it happens to everybody in different levels, the fans, they try to find a reason, right? They try to find a reason because nobody wants to think about the company that they like and support just whatever. We just throw a dart at a dartboard and get rid of it, because like that's not reality. The reality is there is a reason, right? Everyone has a reason for whatever. The reason is either A, unknown, probably unknown, or B, you just try to guess, right? You just try to guess what the reason is. For most people, they look at it, by people I mean WWE fans, they look at the landscape and they say, oh, that person just wasn't good enough, or they didn't get over, their promos suck, or their wrestling suck. That those are the easy ones, right? You just say, oh, that's. With me, I think everyone was kind of on the same page in terms of, oh, he's kind of having his best run and he's doing his best promo work and he's having his best wrestling matches. Well, there must be a reason. So I think everybody gravitated towards someone who posted on Reddit, of all places, that they watched my quote unquote interview, which wasn't an interview. It was me on a Discord Twitch stream with my two best friends, Mensor and Mason, is his real name, but yeah, we're just friends who are on Twitch all the time, And we did this while I was in WWE. We did this while we were all in WWE. We still do it all the time. We stream because we're friends. This was just a big one because it was the day I announced it, so a lot of people were watching. And we had like a 2-hour conversation, and somewhere in that conversation, I think I said the sentence, "Yeah, when I was talking to Sean earlier, right?" And I was talking about Sean Ross Sapp, who's the one of the lead guys at Fightful or whatever. And someone who was watching that stream said, "Oh, he just admitted that he leaks to dirt sheets. He just admitted." What I was saying when I said that is I was talking to Sean earlier because I had done an interview with Fightful because I knew Fightful was a big platform. So I wanted to make that one of my first interviews and announcements because I knew it would have a broad reach. Them and Chris Van Vliet was one of the first people that I spoke to and reached out to. So I knew I wanted to talk to these major platforms to be able to give my side of the story, and so a lot of people could hear it. So I had done an interview right before that with Sean. It's online right now. It's a YouTube. You can tell it's timestamped. If people really want to put the pieces together to all this, they can, but they choose not to because someone took that clip of me saying that and said, "Oh, he just admitted that he leaks to the dirt sheets and that he talks to Sean Ross Sapp. So he's a leak. He's a mole. WWE must have found out. That's why they fired him." None of that is true. None of that is based in reality. I was not a leak. The reality of the situation WWE is talent don't know anything. Nobody called me like, "Hey, CM Punk is coming back in Survivor Series. Go tell him." Like, I don't have that information. They barely give us the information about ourselves. I found out a ton of my bookings because they got tweeted at me by at WWE NXT. So no, I had no information to leak to people. It's silly, but the whole thing has caught fire, and it's like a lot of people online think that that's the reason because it sounds like a thing that could be true. Oh, he was having great matches. He was doing that. He was doing that. The reality of the situation is I was likely released. Again, I don't know. I wasn't given an answer. I was likely released just because it was a contract thing that came up at a time when they were renewing some people's contracts, and they decided that there was more money to be made in other contracts than there was to be made with me. It's that simple. There's not this nefarious scandal or something like that. It's just not. Again, I wasn't given a reason, so it could be anything. But just for someone who lived through it, it's probably just a simple business decision. It's probably nothing more than that.
The internet is a wonderful place, isn't it?
Again, a part of me doesn't blame them, right? Because they're fans and this is their favorite company and they're invested and they want to think that, things happen for a reason. There's not just random, because it's a harder pill to swallow to just say, "Oh, they just got rid of a really good wrestler," because really good wrestling doesn't matter that much. The reality of the situation is that really good wrestling doesn't matter that much. I wish it did. I love wrestling. WWE has tons of really great wrestlers. They probably just decided they don't need one more. That's what it is.
Yeah. Onwards and upwards anyway. And thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate you.